In today's video, we're taking you into the cramped belly of a C-47 Dakota on the night of June 5th, 1944. The engines hum so loudly you can feel them in your teeth, and the air smells of oil, leather straps, and the sharp bite of nervous sweat. You're squeezed shoulder to shoulder with the men of Easy Company, 506 Parachute Infantry Regiment, waiting to be hurled into the night over Normandy. You're here now, and let's be honest, the odds aren't exactly in your favour. Before you fall asleep, feel free to like and subscribe, but only if stories from deep inside World War II are your kind of thing. Let me know in the comments what city you're tuning in from and what time it is. It always amazes me how far these slow, dusty stories manage to march. Now, get comfortable. Let your mind slow down. We're stepping into another time. No headlines. The plane jolts, bouncing in the night turbulence, and you instinctively grip your parachute straps a little tighter. Every man is quiet, lost in his own head. Some chew gum furiously, jaws working like pistons. Others bow their heads, muttering half prayers, half arguments with themselves. A few pretend to sleep, though no one believes it. The reality presses on you. In a few minutes, you'll be tumbling out into a storm of flak and traces, and everything you've practiced for will either work or it won't. Your rifle lies awkwardly across your lap. The paratroopers kit is heavy, close to 80 pounds strapped on. Ammo, grenades, entrenching tool, maybe even a bundle of TNT. You feel like a turtle who might fall straight through the bottom of the plane. The sergeant across from you smirks and mouths. Light travel, huh? One of those little jokes you've all been tossing around since training. Humour has become a lifeline. Someone mutters that maybe the army is just trying to see how much equipment one man can carry before sinking into the soil. The red light overhead glows faintly. For now, you sit. Your jumpmaster paces the aisle, tugging on straps, double-checking harnesses, giving nods. He looks calm, but his knuckles are white on the overhead rail. The truth is, even seasoned officers know that Normandy will be like nothing before. The invasion plan is huge, thousands of aircraft, ships and men moving across the channel, but everyone admits it. Drops will be messy. Historians still argue whether the scattering of airborne troops was disaster or genius. But right now, in the dim belly of this aircraft, you don't care about doctrine. You care about whether you'll even land on the right continent. A sudden flash outside. The pilot takes you through a cloud gap, and you glimpse the pale moon glinting on waves far below. For a moment it looks calm, like a postcard. But then you remember. That quiet surface hides 1,000 ships steaming toward the beaches. Men you've trained with, men you'll never meet, are right now clutching their rifles on landing craft. You're all pieces of one immense gamble. The plane banks hard left and stomachs lurch. Someone retches into his helmet liner. He'll regret that later. The smell spreads and groans ripple through the cabin. One guy near the back laughs softly. Well, at least Jerry will smell us coming. That earns a few chuckles, a little too loud, like releasing a pressure valve. Your fingers brush, the tiny crumpled card tucked in your pocket. General Eisenhower's note, the one every man carries tonight. It talks about the Great Crusade and how the eyes of the world are upon you. The paper feels unreal, like it belongs to another world where speeches mattered. Here, inside the vibrating fuselage, what matters is the harness buckle you keep checking every 30 seconds. The engines suddenly change pitch, straining as the plane climbs. You realise you're close. The jumpmaster's face hardens. He yells over the noise, "Hey, stand up!" You wrestle your legs beneath you, every joint stiff from sitting so long under weight. Packs clatter, boots shuffle, men form a line toward the open door. The blast of cold night air stings as the side hatch opens, and for the first time the roar of engines meets the roar of war. Out there, in the black sky, is Normandy, and every tracer looks like it's aimed directly at you. The green light hasn't yet flicked on, so you stand swaying, harness snapping against the static line. Flak bursts bloom in the distance, orange and black flowers in the night. The pilot rocks the plane, dodging. You're just trying to keep your balance. Someone mutters, "Hope he's got a map better than mine." You glance at the men ahead. One scratches at a lucky rabbit's foot tied to his harness. Another mumbles a joke about French wine waiting down below. Some scholars question if men really joked at this exact moment, or if it's a memory smoothed over later, but the nervous laughter feels real enough in your ears. The green light still holds dark and seconds stretch forever. You find yourself staring at the little details, the chipped paint on the door frame, the way the static line hooks gleam, the sweat dripping from the sergeant's helmet rim. Each moment carves itself into your brain, because part of you wonders if this will be the last thing you ever notice. The jumpmaster leans out, scanning the sky, flares illuminating his face in strange flashes. He yells again, "Get ready!" Every muscle in your body tenses, breath shallow. The harness digs into your chest. The red light finally clicks off. Green floods the doorway. And just like that, everything you've lived, trained, joked and sweated for comes down to one step into the dark. You lurch forward with easy company, boots slamming on metal, and fling yourself into the slipstream. For a fraction of a second, you're weightless above the Channel coast, suspended between the world you've known and the chaos below. The wind hits like a freight train. Your stomach lurches, the harness yanks against your chest, and the roar of the C-47 is replaced by the screaming rush of night air. For a breathless moment you're tumbling, arms flailing, wondering if you hooked up your static line right. Then the chute snaps open above you, a violent tug that rattles your teeth. The world slows down. Suddenly it's just you swinging beneath a canopy, drifting through a sky full of chaos. Below, Normandy sprawls in darkness, broken by sudden flashes of artillery and the angry red sweep of tracers. Flares drift lazily down, turning the patchwork fields and hedgerows silver. It would almost be beautiful if you weren't dangling in the middle of it like the world's easiest target. You glance around. Parachutes everywhere, some floating calmly, others spiralling off into nothing. A few trails of fire mark where unlucky chutes never opened. You grip your risers tighter, heart pounding. The training kicks in. You check your drop zone, try to steer. But you can already tell this isn't where you are supposed to land. Historians still argue whether the scatter was a strategic blessing confusing the Germans or a logistical nightmare. All you know is that the neat little plans back in England don't seem to matter under the drifting light of German flares. You hear shouting from the ground, harsh syllables carried upward. The Germans are awake, a machine gun chatters, and you swear you feel the bullets plucking the air around your boots. You curl up instinctively, as if tucking your legs will make you invisible. A tracer slices past, so close it leaves a ghost image in your vision. Someone below yells in English, "Over here!" Then a burst of fire cuts him off. The truth? Depends who you ask later. Some swear the drops were silent ghosts. Others remember the night sky as an orchestra of panic. For you, dangling helpless, it's both at once. The ground rushes up faster than you'd like. You brace, legs together, and hit hard, rolling through a hedgerow ditch. The chute collapses on top of you, smothering with canvas. You claw it off, ears ringing, heart hammering so loud you can't hear anything else. Somewhere nearby, cows moo in confusion, their barn set ablaze by stray flares. It feels absurd that in the middle of the greatest invasion in history, livestock still demand attention. You grin briefly at the ridiculousness before remembering where you are. The night is alive with disjointed sounds, boots crashing through brush, rifles firing sporadically, the distant rumble of naval shells. You tug your Thompson free and crouch low. Around you, shadows move, some friendly, some not. Training taught you challenge and password calls, but right now everything is jumbled. A figure approaches and you nearly fire before hearing the faint flash whispered. You croak back thunder, relief flooding your chest. It's one of yours, wide-eyed and grinning like he's just seen a ghost. Together you stumble through the hedgerows, searching for others. Every rustle sets your nerves on edge. At one point a scarecrow looms suddenly, and you almost squeeze the trigger before realizing it's stuffed straw in a floppy hat. Your buddy mutters, "Even Jerry couldn't make them that ugly," and you both chuckle quietly, tension breaking for just a second. Humour, again, becomes survival. The moon peeks out, lighting the patchwork of Normandy farmland. Rows of hedges like dark walls, fields stretching unevenly. Navigation feels impossible. Somewhere to the east is Sainte-Mère-Église, but you could be 5 miles or 15. Some scholars question whether the mist drops truly mattered, pointing out how paratroopers improvised brilliantly. You don't feel brilliant. You feel lost, a turtle with too much gear, trudging through a foreign landscape while someone tries very hard to stop you from succeeding. You kneel in a ditch as more parachutes drift down, some caught in trees. A scream echoes where one man dangles, tangled in branches, helpless. You wince but can't climb to help, not with Germans prowling. The hard fact is many never even touch the ground before meeting their fate. But you push that thought away. You have to. After what feels like hours but is probably minutes, you find another cluster. 5 men huddled in the shadows. One clutches a map he can't read in the dim light. Another is swearing about losing his radio. The group debates whether to head west or south. Historians still argue whether units like this should have pressed to objectives or gathered first. You don't have that luxury. You move because staying still feels worse. Onward, through hedges and muddy ditches, boots soaked, breath ragged. You spot a farmhouse ahead, lit dimly by a lantern. A rooster crows nervously from a pen, oblivious to the invasion. You creep closer, rifles ready. Inside, a French family hides. Wide eyes, children clutching their mother's dress. The old farmer points frantically south, whispering, "Allemands, là-bas." Germans nearby. He presses a loaf of bread into your hands, as if feeding you will help. It's warm, and for a surreal second you think of home, of kitchens, of anything but this. You tear a piece, share it around, and one of your buddies jokes, "First meal in France, boys." But then gunfire cracks close, snapping you back. You scatter from the farmhouse, slipping into hedgerows once more. Somewhere nearby, a German patrol moves with flashlights, beams sweeping. You flatten into the dirt, praying they don't step directly on you. The lights pass and you exhale slowly. You're exhausted, but the night is far from over. You have no clear sense of where the rest of Easy Company landed. The plan to form up and strike at the artillery feels like a dream from another world. Right now, the goal is simpler. Stay alive, stay moving, and find anyone who still wears the same uniform. The hedges rise high around you, ancient earthen walls thick with roots and brambles. They make every field a fortress. Later, historians will call this Bocage country one of the toughest terrains in Europe. Tonight it's just another obstacle between you and the sound of your friends' voices, and so you push forward into the Normandy night, mud on your boots, sweat on your brow, laughter and fear mingling in equal measure, searching for Easy Company in a land that doesn't yet know it's hosting the largest invasion in history. The hedgerows close in on you like tall leafy walls, damp with dew and threaded with roots that snag your boots. You push forward anyway, ducking into shadows whenever the sky glows with distant flares. The Germans light up the horizon every few minutes, and each burst feels like someone snapping a spotlight on your secrets. Somewhere behind you, the slow drone of planes fades, leaving only the rustle of branches, the squelch of mud, and the uneven breathing of the few men you've collected since the jump. You're not alone anymore. 4 others stumble along with you, their silhouettes broken and awkward under heavy loads. No one speaks much. Words travel too easily in the dark. Instead, you rely on nods, hand signals, and the quick squeeze of an arm. The reality is simple. You're scattered, lost, and badly out of place. But every man here has decided that moving together beats wandering apart. Historians still argue whether small bands like this really change the outcome of D-Day. But for you, the shared presence is a lifeline. You crouch at a crossroads, whispering fiercely about which way to go. One guy swears the beach is east, pointing toward the faint smell of smoke and salt air. Another insists you're already too far inland. The truth? Depends who you ask later. Some veterans recall feeling sure of their bearings. Others admit they wandered blindly until dawn. You don't have the luxury of certainty. You just choose a path and hope the stars don't laugh too hard at your guess. As you move, you spot more parachutes tangled in trees. Some hang limp and empty. Their owners cut themselves free. Others sway ominously. No movement below. You keep your eyes forward. Dwelling too long on those who didn't make it only slows your legs. A sudden rustle ahead freezes you. Rifles raise. Out of the hedgerow stumbles another group. 3 men in the same uniform, faces painted, eyes wild. Relief floods through both sides. One of them grins and whispers, "Easy Company." You nod, and just like that your little band doubles in size. 10 men now, still far from a full platoon, but the difference feels enormous. The larger group moves carefully along a ditch, keeping low. Every step your boots sink deeper into Normandy's thick mud. It clings, sucking at your heels, making you feel as if the whole countryside is conspiring to slow you down. Someone mutters that the army should have given out boats instead of parachutes. A couple of quiet laughs follow, the kind you swallow quickly, in case the night decides to punish you for forgetting where you are. You pause at the edge of another field. Across it, lanterns glow faintly from a farmhouse. Low voices carry in the still air, definitely German. One man whispers that you should skirt wide around it. Another, braver, or maybe just more reckless, says you ought to sneak closer, see what they're guarding. Eventually the cautious voice wins out. You slip along the hedgerows instead, stomach knotted until the glow fades behind you. Not all encounters tonight are enemies. At one point you stumble across 2 cows standing in the middle of a lane, blinking at you with bovine indifference. One soldier can't resist and pats one on the head. The cow snorts loudly enough to echo, nearly giving you away. You all freeze, then scuttle off, suppressing laughter that bubbles inappropriately. Some scholars question if stories like this were exaggerated later, but in the moment, the cow feels as real a part of the invasion as any tank. You reach a small stream, water reflecting the moon. Men crouch to drink, cupping hands. It tastes of mud and leaves, but no one complains. You're too thirsty to care. For a few minutes you sit in silence, listening to frogs croak, as if they don't realise a war is passing through their pond. The absurd normalcy is strangely comforting. Then, shouts again in clipped German. You scatter into the hedges, hearts pounding. A patrol passes close, boots crunching on gravel, rifles slung. You can see the outline of helmets in the moonlight. One man coughs, and you swear it echoes for miles. Somehow the patrol keeps moving, oblivious. When they vanish, you wait long minutes before daring to move again. The group grows slowly as dawn creeps closer. Stray soldiers appear from every direction, guided by the same instinct: find others, survive the night. By the time first light tinges the sky, nearly 20 men walk together. Still not the full company, but enough to feel like an actual unit again. A lieutenant steps forward, maps in hand, and begins piecing together what you all already feared. You're scattered miles from the intended landing zones, but there's no time to wallow. Orders are still orders. Somewhere nearby, German artillery threatens the beach. Somewhere beyond, the town of Sainte-Marie-du-Mont matters to the entire invasion. Your small band can't fight the war alone, but maybe you can still make a dent. You crouch in the hedgerows, the first bird song of morning mixing with distant thuds of naval guns from the coast. The sky brightens, revealing Normandy in its true colours: green fields, stone farmhouses, red roofs, and the uneasy knowledge that every inch is contested ground. You can see the faces of your comrades more clearly now, mud-streaked, weary but determined. You've survived the night landing against all odds. Now the real work begins, gathering what's left of easy company and finding a way to turn chaos into purpose. Morning creeps across Normandy with a grey, uncertain light. You blink against it, crouched low in a hedgerow ditch alongside the men you've gathered during the night. The dew clings to your jacket, soaking into every seam, and the weight of your gear feels heavier now than it did when you left the plane. But at least you're not alone anymore. 20-odd men move around you, some whispering, some staring blankly ahead, everyone waiting for someone to decide what to do next. Yet someone emerges quickly. A young lieutenant, Richard Winters, steps up with his map, his calm demeanour slicing through the confusion. He's not shouting, not blustering, just quietly assessing, asking who's here, what weapons you've got, what shape the men are in. Even now his steady voice feels like an anchor. The company commander, Thomas Meehan, is missing, his plane likely downed in the night, so Winters is the senior man. By default this is his command. Some scholars question whether Winters expected to carry so much responsibility that morning, but in the moment it hardly matters. Everyone's eyes drift toward him, looking for direction. Winters scans the map, then glances at the men. "We've got to move," he says. The words are simple, but they cut through the fog. Orders filter down quickly. Regroup, check weapons, grab whatever ammunition you can. A sergeant pulls out a captured German helmet, jokes about trading it for breakfast later, and earns a ripple of laughter. Humour again, like a little flame in damp kindling, it keeps the cold from setting in too deeply. As you push out of the hedgerow, the reality of Normandy by daylight hits. The bocage country stretches in every direction, walls of tangled roots and leaves that make every field a fortress. Roads twist unpredictably, farmhouses stand like islands, and visibility is a constant gamble. This is not the open training ground of England, it's a maze designed to trip you. Historians still argue whether the Allies underestimated this terrain, but trudging through it you know for sure the land itself is an enemy. The lieutenant leads cautiously, men spread out in staggered formation. A few paratroopers scavenge equipment from abandoned chutes, adding extra ammo and grenades to their loads. Someone uncovers a crate of German rations and waves it like treasure. The tin labels are foreign, but the chocolate inside tastes like victory, however small. You chew a piece, bitter and strange, and one man jokes, "Better than army chow," which earns a few nods. The morning quiet is deceptive. A few miles away you hear artillery booming, the kind of heavy guns that can rake the beaches. The invasion's success depends on silencing them, and word trickles down. Easy Company has an objective near Brecourt Manor. The challenge is clear. Find the guns, take them out, or the men landing at Utah Beach will pay the price. You march toward the sound, nerves prickling. Along the way, a French farmer waves frantically from his field, muttering warnings in hurried bursts of French. No one fully understands him, but the direction of his pointing arm says it all. Germans ahead. You duck into the hedgerow, crawling along the ditch, peeking out cautiously. The first glimpse of German positions comes with the jolt. Trenches snake through the fields near the manor, camouflaged by brush. You spot helmets bobbing, the gleam of artillery barrels aimed seaward. 4 big guns, 105mm howitzers, dug in and connected by trenches. They're already firing, each thundering shot shaking the ground. The sound makes your teeth rattle. You exchange nervous glances with the men around you. It looks like too much for your small band. Winters studies the layout, his eyes narrowing. He's calculating, sketching quick notes in the dirt with his finger. Then he looks up, voice calm. "We'll take them, one at a time. Simple, direct." The plan sounds insane. You're barely a platoon facing a fortified battery. But the clarity of his tone leaves no room for debate. Orders ripple down, machine gunners cover, riflemen flank, grenadiers ready. The men shift nervously, but no one argues. You clutch your Thompson tighter, the wooden grip warm from your hands. The absurd thought flickers through your head. You'd give anything for a cup of coffee before doing this. Instead, you get a nod from the man beside you, and that has to be enough. The assault begins with a rush through the hedgerow, boots pounding mud, hearts hammering. You dive into a shallow ditch as bullets crack overhead. Machine guns chatter from your flank, laying suppressive fire. Winters leads from the front, signalling with hand gestures, calm as if directing traffic. You hurl a grenade, the explosion sending dirt and smoke skyward. German shouts echo, sharp and urgent. The fight turns chaotic quickly. Smoke, shouting, the rattling stutter of weapons all blending into one rolling storm. You leap into a trench, nearly colliding with a German soldier, and the clash is sudden, violent, brief. Training takes over. You fire, he falls, and you move forward without stopping to think. Later, historians will marvel at how a handful of paratroopers managed to take out a fortified battery. In the moment, it's simply survival. You against the man who'd rather see you gone. Step by step, trench by trench, Easy Company pushes through. Each gun is destroyed in turn, explosives stuffed into breaches, barrels shattered. The roar of detonations feels oddly satisfying. Every blast means fewer shells slamming into Utah Beach. Between explosions, you hear distant naval guns firing back, the thunder of the sea war bleeding into the hedgerows. Quirky details carve themselves into your memory. One soldier, in the middle of a firefight, pauses to steal a German officer's pistol, grinning like he's on his shopping trip. Another yells, "Duck!" only to realise he's warning a very startled goose that flaps out of the trench in protest. The absurdity makes you laugh even as bullets zip overhead. By late morning, the battery is silenced. The ground around Brecourt is scarred, trenches littered with abandoned helmets and gear. You lean against the hedgerow, chest heaving, sweat stinging your eyes. The men around you look the same, muddy, exhausted, but grinning with disbelief. You did it. A small band, scattered in the night, has pulled off one of the most celebrated actions of D-Day. Some scholars still debate how much impact Brecourt really had. Did these guns truly endanger the beach, or were they more symbolic? The truth depends who you ask. But to you, standing there with ringing ears and an empty canteen, it feels monumental. You've proven that Easy Company, even fractured, can bite. Winters gathers the men, his tone steady. Good work, we're not done. The message is clear. This was one step in a very long road. You reload, adjust your aching straps, and prepare to march again. The invasion is only beginning, but Easy Company has already carved its place in history, and you were there, mud-caked boots and all, when it started. The smell of gunpowder lingers as you stumble away from Brecourt Manor. Your ears still ring from the detonations and your hands tremble with the aftershock of throwing grenades, firing bursts and shoving explosives into artillery breaches. Around you, the men of Easy Company move slowly, each step heavy but purposeful. You've silenced the guns that hammered Utah Beach, and though no one says it out loud, you know thousands of lives might have been spared because of what you just did. Still, there's no time to bask in the moment. Normandy isn't finished with you yet. The hedgerows stretch endlessly, twisting fields into green-walled corridors. Each one could hide a patrol, a sniper, or nothing but cows. Your boots are soaked with mud, your throat dry from adrenaline and smoke. A soldier near you mutters that if he'd known France had this much mud, he would have packed a canoe. Someone chuckles, the laughter thin but real. Humour is the glue that holds the tension together, a tiny rebellion against the fear. Winters moves at the front, map in hand, his voice low but clear as he points men toward their next rally point. He doesn't swagger or grandstand. He just moves, calm and deliberate. You sense the men drawing strength from that. Some scholars question whether his leadership style was natural or carefully cultivated, but for you, trudging behind him in the bocage, the effect is undeniable. When Winters says move, you move. Word filters back that more paratroopers are converging, survivors of the scattered drops piecing themselves together into something resembling a fighting force. The sense of isolation that haunted you through the night eases just a little. You're part of something larger again. At one hedgerow corner, you suddenly find yourself face to face with another cluster of paratroopers. Filthy, exhausted, but unmistakably 506th. The greetings are quiet, just quick nods and tired smiles, but they mean more than speeches. You're no longer a handful of men, you're becoming easy company again. The march toward Carrington begins. The name passes down the line in hushed tones. Carrington is the link, the town that connects Utah and Omaha beaches. If the Allies don't hold it, the two landing forces remain dangerously split. Every man knows it. Carrington is the next big test. You've only just survived Bracour, and already another challenge looms. The route winds through farmland. Along the way, you encounter French villagers peering cautiously from doorways. A few wave shyly, pressing bottles of cider or chunks of bread into your hands. The warmth of their gestures clashes with the tension of the moment. One old woman, tears streaming down her cheeks, whispers, "Merci," over and over, clutching your sleeve as if you're a miracle. You smile awkwardly, not knowing what to say, and move on. The gratitude feels heavy, a reminder of what's at stake. The company pauses in an orchard, men collapsing into the grass, gulping down water from canteens. The apples above look tempting, and one soldier clambers up, tossing fruit down. You bite into one, crisp, tart, a burst of normal life in the middle of a war. For a fleeting second, it feels like being back home on a summer day. Then a distant crack of gunfire shatters the illusion, and you remember exactly where you are. As the march continues, nerves fray. The hedgerows seem designed to hide ambushes, and every rustle makes you grip your rifle tighter. At one point, you pass a dead horse sprawled across the lane, its cart shattered. The smell is sharp, sour. A soldier mutters, "Guess Jerry doesn't feed his Uber drivers either," earning strained laughter. Dark humour, but it helps you keep moving. By late afternoon, you draw closer to Carrington. The air grows tense, the distant thuds of artillery reminding you that the Germans haven't given up. Rumours ripple through the ranks. Paratroopers who scouted ahead speak of machine guns in the town, of stubborn defenders waiting in stone houses. Carrington won't be given up easily. Some historians still debate just how prepared the Germans were, but from your view, even whispers of resistance make your stomach tighten. Night falls again before you reach the outskirts. The company digs in cautiously along a hedgerow line, forming a makeshift camp. There's no real rest, just a chance to slump against your pack and close your eyes while others keep watch. The ground is hard, the air damp, mosquitoes whining around your ears. Still, exhaustion drags you into shallow sleep. Dreams come in flashes. The roar of Bracour's guns, the shock of flares in the night sky, the slap of mud under your boots. You wake to a soldier nudging you, whispering it's your turn for watch. You rub your eyes, stare into the darkness, and listen to the silence broken only by the occasional bark of a dog in the village ahead. Somewhere, Germans are waiting. You feel it in your bones. Dawn creeps in, pale and uncertain. Carrington lies ahead, its church spire poking above the rooftops. You shoulder your rifle and join the line, moving forward once more. Easy company isn't finished. You've survived the jump, the gathering, the assault on Bracour. Now the road carries you towards street fighting in Carrington, a place where the hedgerows give way to narrow alleys, and the test of easy company's resolve will be sharper than ever. The morning air hangs damp as you trudge down the dirt roads toward Carrington. Your legs ache from days of marching through the bocage. Your shoulders sag beneath a load of gear that seems to get heavier with every mile. Each breath tastes faintly of mud and smoke, the countryside scarred by shelling. Still, the road pulls you forward, step by step, into the next fight. Easy Company stretches out in a loose column, men walking with rifles slung, eyes darting nervously into the hedgerows. The dirt road is flanked by high earthen banks and dense greenery, the infamous Normandy bocage that feels like it has been designed by nature to slow and trap you. You glance up occasionally, catching a sliver of pale sky between the leaves. Some mutter that it's like walking through an endless tunnel. One man jokes, "If this keeps up, we'll all come out in Paris." And though the humour is thin, it gets a couple of chuckles. Your boots squish with every step, soaked from dew and the occasional stream you've waded through. Blisters gnaw at your heels, but you push on, unwilling to let the pain show. Along the roadside you pass abandoned carts, a broken bicycle, a child's doll lying face down in the dirt. The scattered remains of normal life feel eerie, reminders that these villages were homes before they became battlefields. Orders filter down the line, Carentan must be taken. The town links Utah and Omaha beaches, and without it the invasion could splinter. That single fact gnaws at you. You realise that every step you take is part of something far bigger than yourself. Bridges between armies, nations balancing on the edge of success or failure. Historians still argue whether Carentan was truly the linchpin of the invasion, or simply one of many critical points. But for you moving steadily down the road, it feels like the centre of the world. At one rest stop, you slump into the grass by a hedgerow, pulling off your helmet to wipe sweat from your brow. A buddy tosses you a stick of gum, and you chew slowly, savouring the faint sweetness. Small comforts matter. Another soldier pulls out a cigarette, lights it with trembling fingers, then hands it off to the man beside him, who drags deeply before passing it further down the line. You don't even need to speak. That shared smoke is language enough. As the march resumes, you pass through small hamlets, stone houses with shuttered windows, gardens overgrown. Some villagers peek out cautiously, waving shyly at the column. One little boy runs alongside for a few steps, shouting, "Vive l'Amérique!" before his mother pulls him back. The men grin, waving, and for a moment, the weight of war lifts just slightly. Then comes the first crack of gunfire. It echoes sharp from ahead, cutting through the morning calm. You drop instinctively into the ditch, rifle raised. The column halts, men flattening against hedgerows. Scouts move forward, tense and quiet. A few bursts of fire trade back and forth, then silence. The word comes down, just a small German patrol driven off. But the tension lingers in your muscles, and you march more cautiously now. The road winds on, narrowing into dirt lanes barely wide enough for two men across. The hedges feel closer, pressing in, amplifying every sound. You hear the clink of gear, the scuff of boots, the occasional muttered curse. Each noise seems far too loud, as if the whole countryside is listening. Quirky moments still sneak in. At one point, you pass a farm where a goat trots boldly into the road, bleating loudly at the column. A soldier whispers, "That's Private Billy keeping pace," and the name sticks. For the rest of the march, the goat is adopted in conversation as an honorary member of the company. Some scholars question whether these little mascots were truly remembered in the heat of marching, or invented in hindsight, but for you the absurdity feels very real. By midday the heat rises and sweat slicks your back. The line pauses again, men gulping water, adjusting straps, rubbing sore shoulders. One paratrooper swears that when he gets home, he's never carrying anything heavier than a fishing rod again. Another mutters that he'll kiss the first chair he sees. You grin, though your lips are cracked from thirst. Then the distant sound of artillery rolls over the hedgerows, steady and ominous. Carentan lies ahead, and the Germans are waiting. You know the town will not be taken without cost. Still, you march on, boots striking rhythm with dozens of others, a steady drumbeat carrying you toward narrow streets and stone walls where the next chapter of Easy Company's story waits. The march isn't just physical, it's mental. Every step is a rehearsal, a bracing of nerves, a quiet argument inside your own head. You remember the chaos of the jump, the shock of Brécourt, the faces of men you haven't seen since that night's sky over Normandy. You wonder who you'll meet again in Carentan and who you won't. The truth depends who you ask later. Some remember the march as steady and determined, others as a blur of exhaustion and dread. Both feel right as you move forward. By the time the sun begins to dip, the spire of Carentan's church rises faintly ahead, silhouetted against the sky. The town is close. You tighten your grip on the Thompson, shoulder squared despite the ache. Easy Company has marched far already, but the hardest steps are still to come, into the streets of Carentan, where every corner could hide an enemy, and every shadow could decide your fate. Carentan looms ahead as you edge closer, its rooftops clustered together, the church spire stabbing into the grey sky like a warning finger. The closer you get, the more the countryside tightens into lanes and ditches, funneling you toward the town. The hedgerows begin to thin, replaced by stone walls and narrow farm tracks that feel less like open country and more like a gauntlet. Every sense sharpens. You know the Germans are in there waiting. Easy Company moves cautiously, rifles at the ready. The smell of smoke drifts toward you, mingling with the sharp tang of manure from the barns. It's a surreal mix. War and farming layered on top of each other. A rooster crows defiantly from somewhere inside the town, and one soldier mutters, "Guess Jerry hasn't shut up all the locals yet." The joke is quick, nervous, but it breaks the tension for just a second. Orders ripple down. Carentan must be cleared, house by house, street by street. You feel your stomach tighten at the thought. This isn't open fields where you can spot movement across hedgerows. This is close quarter, alleyway fighting. Historians still argue whether the Germans truly intended to hold Carentan or just delay the Allies. But either way, the job falls to you. The first shots crack as you approach the outskirts. A burst of machine gun fire forces you to dive into a ditch, mud splattering across your face. Bullets smack against stone walls, sharp and metallic. You hug the earth, heart hammering, until Winters signals the flanking squads forward. Men crawl along hedges, then burst into the first row of houses. The street fighting begins with chaos. You dash into a narrow alley, boots slipping on cobblestones slick with rain. Windows above slam shut as villagers hide, shutters rattling. Somewhere a dog barks frantically, confused by the thunder of rifles. You press your shoulder to a wall, then push forward, rifle raised. The first house is cleared quickly, empty save for overturned furniture and a pot of soup still steaming on the stove. You blink at it, the normalcy absurd in the middle of battle. One soldier sniffs and mutters, "French cooking," finally earning a strained laugh. The next house isn't so simple. Germans fire from an upper window, sending splinters showering down. You and your squad duck beneath the sill, then toss a grenade inside. The explosion rocks the room, and silence follows. You clamber up the stairs, nerves jangling, and find the defenders gone. slipped out the back before you could catch them. The frustration burns, but there's no time to linger. On to the next doorway, the next alley. Carrington's streets twist unpredictably. Some are wide enough for carts, others so narrow you can barely squeeze through two abreast. Every corner feels like it could explode in your face. You dart across intersections, lungs burning, hearing the stutter of MG42s from somewhere deeper in the town. The sound is sharp, merciless, echoing through the stone like a buzzsaw. At one corner, a paratrooper stumbles out of a doorway carrying a chicken under his arm, feathers flapping wildly. "Breakfast!" he shouts before tossing it into the street and diving back behind cover. The bird flutters away, squawking, as laughter bursts from the men around you. For a heartbeat, the war feels like a bizarre slapstick show. Later, some scholars question if these stories were embellished, but when you see that chicken flapping into the distance, it feels too ridiculous not to be true. The push grinds on, house by house. You see men firing from upstairs windows, grenades lobbed into courtyards, the steady creep of Easy Company inching forward. Villagers huddle in cellars, wide-eyed, clutching children to their chests. A French boy offers you a bucket of water, his hands shaking. You gulp it down quickly, pat his shoulder and move on. You don't have the words or comfort. By mid-morning you've reached the town square.